From the Rebbe Zt, Ulilevi Omer, the new kuntrus that's coming out of Yetz Hashem, from Sukkos Tovshin Mem Gimel, second night. The answer of Sukkos is based on two things, which would seem to be in contradiction. How we feel and accept everything that comes upon us as is usual and natural, because in the Torah it's written, everyone who is a citizen of Israel should sit in the Sukkos, in order that your generations will know that in Sukkos I sat at Klal Yisrael when I took them out of Eretz Mitzrayim. Vayikra Chav Gimel. You have to understand, what does it mean a citizen? It's not usually written. A Jew has to do a mitzvah because he's a Jew, not because he is a citizen. The union of citizenship, or meaning a permanent resident or temporary resident, has no actuality with regard to the mitzvah, because there's no such situation. A Jew does a mitzvah only because he's a member of a community, and therefore, why by Sukkos does the pasuk use the language of Ezrach? It says Kol Ezrach Yisrael. Furthermore, we have to understand, why is the Chag have two names? One is Chag Osif, when we gather together the crops. Second is Chag Sukkos. What's the difference between these two names? Now, in Chag Osif, because that would depend if a person's happy with what he harvested. And if he had a good harvest, then he goes to his house, that he brought into his house. He's happy with what he harvested, and therefore chag that's is visible on a person, his profit from physical. But Sukkot is the exact opposite. A person leaves his house and everything that he's used to, and all his beautiful furniture, and he goes out to sit, usually sometimes in a very hot year, or rainy, or even hot, cold, and he announces that his house, that he has, everything he has in the house is extra. And at times, you have to do the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah, even when it's difficult. Thus, it comes out that a person now says everything he brought into his house, even not from this year, but all of his years, and he had, it has no value, because he goes into a sukkah and he says, "This is my house." That these two are contradictory. A Jew is willing to give up the gathering of his physical prowess, abilities, and in fact leave everything behind him. The fact is that usually a person is not happy with what he has. As the Gemara tells us, somebody who has 100 wants 200. And we find that Balaflo says, and the Rebbe Zt mentioned, he said it many, many times, but it says, a person doesn't die and he has only fulfilled half of his desires, because a person never has more than half. He always wants the second half. And if that's the case, that a person is a very, very rich man, he's always missing $1,000,000. However, a poor man, he's only missing $1,000. And thus, you can say in a certain sense that the poor man is much richer than the rich man. And therefore, everything that a person has, he's not happy with it. The Chag Osif is not something that will fulfill satiate his desires. The person goes out a different type of to find in the Sukkot a different type of simcha. That's the simcha that he has because of his accomplishments, his deeds, his spiritual deeds. That is that which makes him happy. Because if he can look backwards and see that Moshe chiyuv for this thing, he can be nana from it, and he'll feel very good about it. Therefore, he shouldn't say he only did a half a thing, because the mitzvah that he did is something complete. It must be that if he looks forward, what does he look at? He establishes what he's looking forward to from the festival on what he got in spiritual attainment. And that will tell us where he stands. That's what Sukkos is. That he relies on Hashem Yisborach. He goes into a temporary structure which is dependent upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he finds himself leaving behind everything that he can do for himself. That's why the Sukkah is called Zman Simchosenu. The Oilers Ephraim says that the Sukkah tells us that it shows that a person is happy with what he has, as we find in Ovis, who is in Perik Daled Mishnah Aleph, who is rich, someone who's happy with his portion. If a person goes out and he feels that he's happy when he has nothing, then he can be a person that's happy. However, besides that, in the Torah, it's mentioned also 3 times the idea of simcha. In Sukkos, you will also have the simcha v'samachtem v'nei Hashem leikechem shivas yomim. We shall be happy before Hashem 7 days. That this is mentioned by the Daled Minim. That he has simcha, that he's able to do the mitzvah of lulav, sukkah, esrik, the 4 minim, the lulav, the esrik, the hodas, and the arova. He doesn't say he should be happy with food and drink, or that now he brought in all of his produce. He should be happy with the mitzvahs of Hashem. They gave us the festival. That's the simple understanding of Sukkos. His knowledge of his accomplishment in spirituality, in place of the physical. And these 4 species represent the feeling of closeness to mitzvahs that you're doing. If we take the Daled Minim, the 4 species, and we hold them close to our heart, he says, this is what I want to have, be able to be close to Hashem. Furthermore, it says, you should be happy with his festival. It doesn't mention the Chag of Hashem, your festival. That's a Chag that you are making spiritually. You have a portion in it, and that's your yontif. A person has to leave his house and go into a different world, a place that's spiritual, and what he does, that's called B'chagecho. This is also what it says. We shall make it a festival for Hashem 7 days. Now we just said that the Chag 7 days, as it says in 15th of the year of the 7th month, we shall make Chag Hashem Shivas Yomim. Why does he further go back on it to repeat it? And the other Sukkos represents everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does in Yontif. It's known that 7 days has the 7 days of creation in it. You always have in any 7-day cycle. Whenever your Sukkah starts by Tuesday to Tuesday, or Sunday to Sunday, or Shabbos to Shabbos, any festival, you have 7 days Chag Hashem. How's that? By elevating, taking the 4 species we elevate, and through that and the sitting in the Sukkah, to make it a Chag Hashem for 7 days. And that's the intention why it says Bashona of the year. That if we'll do this for a whole year, all year, the whole week will be Kodesh. He starts off that he wants to do mitzvahs. He leaves the festival, his natural, his physical state, and he becomes a spiritual person. That's why it says Kol Ezra Yisrael Yeshiv Sukkos. Comes to tell you who is really a citizen of Yisrael, the one who sits in the sukkah. Now the Ezra of Yisrael, the Ben Torah, is the one who sits in the sukkah. He's ready to give up on his own physical benefits. Therefore, he's called an Ezrach. He has a special place, even in places which are not that spiritual. Even when, as a Jew has to travel and find himself without a permanent place, he's Jewish. And not only Sukkos, every place where he goes. And he's always a temporary person there from the physical sense. He's a spiritual sense, he's always Jewish. Therefore, he can find himself as a citizen of Hashem. A citizen of Hashem, because the house is what establishes what the person is, and how he acts is what establishes who he is. It must be, well, Yisrael 7 days is tied together. The Ezra is what influences all of his deeds throughout the year.